can you talk a little bit about how any synergies you found between online training and in-person training, or any challenges?
Yeah.
Let me chime in, Tony, before you go, let me chime in. I made a note to talk about this. You and Dean recently have like switched, within the last couple of years, kind of you decor. And Dean, didn't you just recently kind of go in a different I'd like to hear that too, that challenge. I mean, I don't know, but I thought that was one that pointed out in my head, like you guys got a lot going on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I think I elaborate on this of the previous question. Like, I think certainly I think a lot of value that I offer with distance coaching is the fact that I do train a lot of people in person as well. So I'm always kind of practicing my skill sets and tinkering with stuff and different coaching cues and different positioning and programming. Like, I mean, my clients in many ways are my guinea pigs. So, I think there's certainly a lot of synergy between what I do at core and applying it to my distance coaching clients. So I do think, again, just to expound a little bit more on what I said previously, like the in-person coaching definitely helps, because I like I said, there's just so many nuances that come with training people that I just think it's very, very vital to learn that skill set.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And
also, I think another skill is just learning when to say no to somebody. I have had people reach out to me and ask for distance coaching, and of course I try to peel back the onion a little bit and try to figure out their background, what they're looking to do, because I get a little bit of a mix of like people who want to get strong and maybe want to maybe compete in powerlifting, which is weird because I've never done a powerlifting meet, but also might be a little bit hurt, if their shoulder hurts, their lower back hurts. And if I peel back the onion a little bit, sometimes I have to be like, you know what, I really don't think online coaching is the right fit for you right now. I do think you need to be working with somebody in person. So I usually say, let me know where you're located. I can definitely try to find somebody in your area that I might know. If not, I'll put something up on social media and hopefully get a couple bites. And I do think people appreciate that, that I'm not just like doing a money grab. I do have their best interests in mind. And certainly down the road, who's to say they're not going to buy one of my future programs on Exercise.com or some kind of ebook that I put out. So, there's a degree of integrity that I think lacks in the industry, but I do think that something like that, people can appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's big. And I think that goes back to what Kelly said of knowing your niche and sticking to it, and
what Dean said too, like sometimes I'm not the best option for you right now, but I just understand this, weighing that appropriately.
Were you just following your arms there?
Yeah, well, that's a little different angle.
He's learning from you. All right, perfect. Dean, if you could follow up on that, can you talk a little bit about any synergies you found between online and in-person training or challenges?
Well, the synergies are pretty much the same. I mean, you're still trying to get people to go through a training effect. You're still working with the same anatomy, physiology, understanding people. The biggest challenges are primarily, I'm not there to help the person reposition or readjust to get a better workout or to answer questions live. A lot of the feedback I might give them is retroactive, in that they've done the workout, they filmed themselves, they send me a video of it, and then I have to tell them what they can do to get better at that exercise after they've already done the exercise. So it's sort of like the second go around when they do that exercise series, that's when they can actually implement some of the corrective measures that I told them about. Maybe it's move your knee here, your foot here, put more weight on that, do something different. But after the first workout, they don't get that specific benefit. They're kind of flying blind on it. Whereas if I was with them in person and I saw them doing something wrong on rep 2, I could tell them how to fix it for rep 3. So that way it would be more proactive versus retroactive. And then online communication is definitely different than when you're working with somebody face-to-face. You don't get a chance to read body language or pick up on syntax or whether somebody's sarcasm meter is going off. So you have to rely on really having that written communication skill set down, unless you're doing things like a Skype consult or a Google Hangout or something like that, where you're able to do something face-to-face and pick up on body language. But then there's also cultural differences. Like if I'm working with a client who's in Asia and English is their third language, or somebody who's in Europe and English is their second language, or somebody in England and English is their first language, but it's not my type of English, it's their type of English. I got to try to figure out what they're saying, how they're saying it, and what it means, so that I can offer the best kind of advice possible to what their situation is and how they're going to be able to pick up on that.
Yeah, you just dominated the world. You just said like
Yeah.
So if they're saying niche and not niche, you need to know how to still talk to them.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
If they throw down some type of slang that I haven't heard before, like England has so much amazing slang. I have no idea what half of it means, and then they'll say something and it's like, what just happened here? I got to go on Urban Dictionary and figure this out, but it's like Urban Dictionary Mate or whatever it is in the English version.
So Exercise.com and Urban Dictionary, those are the only two websites and software you need.
All you need.
Pretty much. And Google Translate, maybe.
And Google Translate. All right, Kelly, I have a next question I would love to ask you to start with.
Sure.
What are some mistakes that maybe you made early on with online training that you would caution someone new to watch out for?
How much time do you have?
Oh, no.
No. So my biggest takeaway from all of this is I feel that a lot of people, when they come online, especially in fitness, is they don't value their worth. And so they end up underselling what they have. They end up charging too little. And then they're working so hard just to make ends meet that they're not able to service their people. So, I see it all the time, these guys that have cookie cutter programs, and they're just, running in circles all the time, working 15 hours a day, trying to service 100 people, because they're not really valuing what they have to offer. So if you're coming into this, I want you to plan out exactly what you want to offer your clientele, and then figure out how much time that's going to take you, how much time you're worth per hour, and that's what you need to charge. So many people come into this industry and they're like, oh, I'm going to offer online training for $80 a month, just because they want to get people in the door. And all of a sudden they have 30 people and they can't keep up and nobody's getting good service. Where if you came in and you said, this is how much I want to make per hour, this is how much time I'm going to devote per client, this is what I need to charge, I guarantee you're going to make a lot more money, because people are going to see that you're worth that, whatever price you put on it. I'm not going to say a price because I don't want you to get a number fixed in your head. I want you to come up with that number. But the more you charge, the more value you're able to offer, because you can give so much more of yourself to your clients.
Kelly so far is doing this, Dean. Kelly's doing the mic drop. I think that goes really well with, like, a lot of times what our CEO does. It's called the 80-20 rule. Like, are those 20% of your clients, like 20% of your business, really taking 80% of your time? And if they are, you probably got to readjust that and think through it.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. And this is such great advice, because it's like, if you guys could look back and talk to yourself when you're starting online training, like, what would you tell yourself to do differently? Tony, Dean, real quick, what would you say, one mistake you made that you would say?
For me, there's two things. I think piggyback a little bit on Kelly. I think I give myself a limit of how many clients I have.
Yes.
And I stay pretty strict on that, because there's a delicate balance of work life, having a life, and now that I have a kid, and I have to hang out with my wife, and like, just kidding. I said that was not be sarcastic. But I have a cutoff point of how many distance coaching clients I want, because I do feel like once I get above that, the quality of programming declines, and it is important to me that people get a good experience. And I also think you need to set boundaries as far as emailing and texting. I don't give my phone number to distance coaching clients, because the last thing I want is for them texting me from the gym, like, hey, what is this exercise?
At 3 a.m.
Yeah, and I was like, that I nip that in the bud. The expectation is like, no, that's not going to happen. And I usually say there's like a 24-hour window of me getting back with emails. I'm usually pretty quick with it, but I set the expectation that, listen, you're going to have to at least give me 24 hours to get back to you. And then I'm going to get back to you. Just relax. It's not, unless you're having if you are having a heart attack, I'm not the person you should be calling or emailing anyways. But, so yeah, those are just little quick ones I'd add in.
Yeah, that's good. Dean, anything else you would add?
I think the biggest thing is just understanding what you're trying to offer and then sticking to that. I mean, if you're trying to be everything to everyone, you're going to be nobody to anyone. So being aware of what your core values that you can do really well, even just better than average, and then trying to really hone in on that kind of stuff versus trying to say, I'm going to peak people for a figure competition and a powerlifting meet and get them ready for a football combine and lose 30 pounds in their office job. Those are great. All trainers should have an ability to do most of that. But what do you feel confident doing online versus trying to do everything for everyone? If you have a specific area of expertise, focus on that and do that incredibly well.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes complete sense. So set your expectations, know your niche, deliver a good product, that you've planned out beforehand. Oh, this is great. So what would you say is one thing, if you could, somebody was asking you, hey, online training, tell me the one thing I need to know about online training, the one thing. Tony, what is it?
Oh man, I get to start this one out. I think it's not easy. I think the inclination is that online training is some ways easier, and that it's a cakewalk, and that it's like, all I have to do is put on my computer, I can travel the world, and I'm just gonna be refreshing my bank account and see money. In a lot of ways, I think online coaching is harder and more time consuming. So you definitely have to have that expectation, because it is, it does get easier the more systems you have in place and the more experience you get. But to think that it's just going to be this little cakewalk and is easy, I think is a false assumption.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kelly, what would you say?
First off, know yourself and know if this is the right space for you. Because it is a lot different. You're sitting at a desk and you're answering questions, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to be sitting at a desk, but also systematize it. Like, get all of your systems in place ahead of time, your financial systems. How are you going to communicate? All your documents that you're going to send out, your templates, everything has to be systematized. So you're not spending 3 hours at a time every time you have to write a new plan, and then you're trying to figure out your bookkeeping at the end of the month because you can't remember who paid you what when. So get all of your systems in place before you start, and then take the time to update those systems as you grow. You might learn things about yourself. Take ample notes of everything that you do, what's working, what's not working, and always tweak.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So it's this idea of, be ready to, progress as you grow, as you bring on more clients, as things change.
Yeah, you have to treat it like a business. I know all of us we were thrown into the fire because everyone's like, hey, can you do this thing for me? And we're like, I don't know what that thing is, but sure, I'll figure it out. But now there's so much information out there that you're capable of putting together your business online before you start it. And that's super, super important. You have to know your mission. You have to know what you want to offer, and you have to create those systems before you put yourself out there in the world.
Yeah, which actually transitions perfectly to the next question. Dean, what would you say, what was that, maybe that shift? Was it chaos? Was it overwhelming? Was it exhilarating when it went from, okay, I'm in-person training and just in-person training, to holy cow, I can train anybody in the world, like somebody coming to me and wanted my training, in a different area? What was that like for you?
It was a cool experience, but more than anything, it was just a new challenge. So it wasn't something that you take any kind of courses in schoolwork, at least when I was in school way back in the time before social media happened. But it was something where it was, and just opened up doors.
You sound so old.
Well, I graduated in 2004. That was before social media. Think about how many people are going to be listening to this who are in their early 20s. That makes me sound old. And it's like, Facebook, what? But yeah, that was a bit of an eye-opening experience to be able to say, okay, here's some potential and possibility. And then it was one of those situations where it was like, now what? What do I do with this potential? What do I do with this possibility? That was still in a relative infancy phase of online training, where not too many people were doing fairly specific individualized coaching. And if they were doing it either exceptionally well or exceptionally poorly. And there weren't many platforms available for people to host stuff. So it was a lot of Excel files and PayPal emailed invoices. Monthly billing didn't exist, so I had to chase people down monthly to be able to get stuff from them. But at that time, also just building up a content library of video exercises that I could send to people, rather than trying to draw stick figure diagrams of, okay, here's a deadlift. Now how do I get this to you? Well, a video would probably be better. How do I film a video? Oh, the audio quality on that sucked. It was blurry. My cameraman turned it sideways in the middle of the video, and now I got to go like this to see it. So figuring out all those factors was eye-opening, but it was also one of those, okay, well, every individual component of online training, you had to kind of figure out on your own and figure out what worked for you, what didn't work for you.
Yeah, for sure. So there was opportunity, but there was challenges at the same time. Tony, would you say it was about the same for you?
It was pretty much just like a blank slate. It's like, okay, here's the potential. What do you do with this? I had no idea. So at that point, I was just trying to figure it out on my own and figure out what worked well for me, what didn't work well. And like Kelly said, just figuring out what I was willing to do and not willing to do, and then just piecing it together and evolving over time.